Congressman Morgan Griffith, Republican, 9th District of Virginia. Congressman, you're on the line.
Hey, good to be with you. How are you?
Okay, Congressman. Look, I just want to get your take. You know, Joe Morrissey said something earlier that has riveted me. And so I just want to get your reaction to it because it's like, wow, he's the first person I heard say this. He said, isn't it interesting that all the Democrats, and Joe's a Democrat, all the Democrats are seeing the same evidence at the same time, and they're in the same caucus. The Democrats that are in safe districts are already for impeachment. Those that are in swing districts say they haven't made up their mind, they need more information. But they're all seeing the same evidence. He said, is that not the epitome of this is a partisan witch hunt? Because they're all seeing the same evidence. What's the difference? What district they're in? Does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense when you understand, and I know you do, that this is just a political exercise. It is not about high crimes and misdemeanors. It's about trying to make it look like President Trump did something horrid, horrible, awful, etc., to affect the 2020 elections. And so they are using foreign policy to affect the 2020 elections. But that's why you have that difference with the safe Democrats and the people in the not so safe seats saying, I want to hear more evidence. Now, I think they'll all end up voting that way because of the fear of primary fights. But the bottom line is that this is a political exercise, not one to find out if there was a high crime or misdemeanor.
Let me just ask you something. All this, the hours and hours of testimony here in the Intel Committee, and not a single question about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Biden's tape, $1 billion of aid. Help me understand why. Is there something that Biden has to hide? I mean, isn't it?
Well,
isn't
and
it, go ahead.
And that is the question. You know, it has bothered me for some time. Why are they doing this? And I think the American people have to ask the question, why are the Democrats doing this? We know it's a political endeavor, but why would they launch it when they did? Why were they looking for it? I mean, I know that they've been after the president since the beginning, but this has negative implications for Joe Biden. I think it's already taken him out of the front-runner spot. I know there are changes in the polls back and forth, but the question can be asked. They are the ones who said dig up dirt. President Trump never said that. They are the ones who've accused him of trying to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. So the question is there dirt we don't know about? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But the question has to be asked. They are so vehement in trying to make it look like Trump did it. Trump did something bad in trying to, in their words, dig up dirt. Trump just said there was an investigation, as you've heard me say before, there was an investigation that was stopped by one administration. Joe Biden carried that message. He shouldn't have because his son was involved. But if that's all there is, it's just inappropriate. So where's the dig up dirt? There's no dirt to dig up. And as my 13-year-old would say, or is there? And that's a question the American people have to ask as this thing continues. If there is no dirt to dig up, what is Joe Biden worried about? What are the Democrats worried about?
Right.
Maybe there's something there we don't have any idea about, and if you put Hunter Biden on the stand, all of a sudden something else slips out. I don't know what they have to be afraid of. Hunter Biden goes on and says, look, it was a sweetheart deal. They made me a deal. I never talked to my dad about it because I didn't want to be involved in that kind of stuff, but I wanted the money. Okay, welcome to America. You can make money. Somebody's foolish enough to pay you, fine. You know, there's no dirt there. It may look bad. And the Vice President, Biden, should never have intervened with his son working for that company. But again, it shows a lack of judgment. But again, it's not the end of the world. So what dirt are they talking about?
You know, that's the second thing I learned today. That's an interesting perspective because if there's no dirt, what could they dig up? I mean, Joe Biden made the statement on tape that he said you had to fire the prosecutor. You got 6 hours, or I'm taking a plane back and I'm taking my $1.1 billion in taxpayer guaranteed loan funds with me. They said, well, you know, we talked to President Obama, and he said it's fine. And Joe Biden said, well, here's the phone. Let's call him up if you don't think this is an accurate threat. But you're right. First of all, this is the other thing. If Hunter Biden does go on the stand, you ought to be his lawyer, because if he just said what you just said, that's his defense. Look, they wanted to pay me $3.5 million, $50,000 a month without any experience at all. Okay, I took the money. No crime. So what? So? I mean, there's no prosecution for that, right? He took the money.
No, right. Unless he was telling them that he was going to give them influence inside the Obama administration, there is no crime. They want to pay him just because he hangs out with the cool kids at the White House. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's only if he's passing information along, or and so, so they wanted to pay him.
Right.
Welcome to America, where we're free, and if somebody's foolish enough to say, I want to pay you $50,000 a month or whatever to be on our board, who amongst us would not take that job?
Okay, so there's another school of thought here that says that Pelosi was roped into this, and now she can't get out after what? This is the second week of public hearings. According to the Morning Consult political poll released yesterday, there has been a 10% drop in 1 week in independents that think this impeachment inquiry is a good idea. So now only 40% of independents are saying it's a good idea. 50% say it is not. And that's a 10% shift from a week ago. So does that give you an inkling that maybe, just maybe, average Americans are now looking at this and saying, what in goodness names are we doing here?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's happening. And look, I know that I represent a very conservative area of the state, yes. And outside of Blacksburg and Radford, they look at this as kind of what's going on. But even in my district, some of those people who are not Republican Party members, who are just average citizens on the street, they're like, look, I may not like everything that President Trump says, but let the man do his job. You got an issue on something, bring it up in the election, but this is not impeachable. What are y'all doing? Right. And in the meantime, very little else is getting done.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network live in Washington, D.C. We're with Congressman, Virginia 9th District, Morgan Griffith. He represents the area that is basically from Roanoke all the way down to the end of the seat from Salem. Congressman, I know you're in a conservative district, but you're also served in the General Assembly in Virginia. You've always had the reputation of working with Democrats across the aisle where it made sense. Right now, this town is just immobilized, as you know, by the impeachment hearings going on. We can get nothing done. And I want to shift to Hong Kong. Yesterday, now we've got Hong Kong police working on the orders, we would assume, of the Chinese Communist government, now opening fire against students. I've had Fox on today. I've had CNN on as I'm scrolling through the stations since 5 a.m. I can't find a single story on it.
Well, I think the difficulty is that we don't have the ability to project our American military into Hong Kong. It is recognized, although very different, it is recognized as a part of China. And while we certainly disagree with them, and while the Chinese promised, but they always make promises that oftentimes they don't keep, more times than not, while the Chinese promised that Hong Kong would be an enclave for capitalism and a lot more freedoms, they have, just about every year slowly ratcheted down the freedoms. The citizens of Hong Kong are now reacting to that. They have the potential to kill one of their big economic centers, but I think that the ruling oligarchic communists are more afraid of freedom spreading across China and taking away their power than they are losing the economic push of Hong Kong.
Just it's sad to me that we are not covering this in a way that I think merits it. I mean, I was at a high school the other day talking to one of the civics classes and in history, and one of the students asked me, what is the Trump administration's position on Hong Kong? And I'm like, well, to keep it free. And this is a senior, and he said, well, how are you going to do that? And why isn't anybody talking about what is going on there? And I didn't really have an answer to that. And it's sad because what is going on in Hong Kong now, these are students that just want to live a life in freedom, and they see it eroding away. Their parents are getting older, so parents have lived through this, but they're young, they're in college, and they want to live a life of freedom as they've had, and they see that it's being eroded, and yet we don't do anything.
Well, and we're not talking about it, which really is an indictment of our media.
Exactly.
It's not new that we don't pay much attention to world affairs in America, and that's unfortunate. But 100 years from now, when they're writing the history of the era, people will scratch their heads on the footnote known as impeachment of President Trump, and they will study whatever the outcome is in Hong Kong will be studied because it is pivotal in the history of China, and it's pivotal in the history of world diplomacy and world economics. And that will be something that historians will study in great detail. Impeachment will be, a monograph here and a PhD there, but it will be a backwater of history.
And Hong Kong is not. Interesting text from Amy in Fairfax, Congressman, who says the president wants to sign a big trade deal with China, so perhaps he's going to let Hong Kong go by the wayside not to upset the Chinese and make the trade-off. Interesting perspective, and I hadn't really thought about that, but like Amy is saying, maybe the president's going to be a little softer with the Chinese on Hong Kong because he doesn't want to piss them off so he can get his deal done, trade deal done.
Well, and that may be, but let's assume that the president is totally wanting to help Hong Kong. We can't send in the gunboats,
right, and
start a major war with the Chinese. That would be illogical,
right? And
economic sanctions, we're already in an economic dispute with them,
right?
So we really have, the president has no cards to play as I see it, other than perhaps galvanizing world opinion,
jawboning,
to condemn what's going on in Hong Kong. That's about it.
Yeah. You're right. Other than using his bully pulpit and jawboning it to bring pressure against the Chinese to leave Hong Kong the way it is, there's not a lot of options. Although you do go back, I think it was the 80s, early 80s, when President Reagan was at the helm, and the Chinese communists were talking about getting Taiwan back in the fold, and they had big ships in the area and things of that. And I remember Reagan made this statement. He said, "Taiwan is our ally, and we will defend them with every ounce of energy and resources that we have." And he deployed two aircraft carriers to the Taiwan Strait. So, did anybody think we were going to go to war to protect Taiwan against Chinese aggression? Probably not. But Reagan did threaten it, and then it stopped. So, there's two sides of it.
Ty, there's enough water, not a lot, but there's enough water in between mainland China and Taiwan that we can separate it out, and we can put boats over there, and we can actually put our military there, and our military is already heavily invested there. We have none of those assets, and none of those no geographic assets and no military establishments already in Hong Kong, which we did in Taiwan. So we don't have that same scenario.
All right. Let's get to Lee County. Okay. You represent it. I got to get your take on this. The sheriff in Lee County, Virginia, said that they would stand up to any state or federal officials that infringed upon gun rights. And then the Lee County Board of Supervisors voted 4-1 to make the county a Second Amendment sanctuary city, according to Sheriff Gay Parsons. This is an area of Virginia that you represent. He said the designation is a statement saying the county is a safe place for gun owners where their rights will not be taken away. The statement also means the county will not support any gun laws that try to take away any gun rights. Interesting. When counties...
Well, this is a direct message to Governor Northam. And, they're not willing to crack down on potential sanctuary cities or counties for illegal aliens, but you're going to try to take away guns from people in Lee County. And there are other counties that have done it. That's the first that I know of in the 9th District. But I believe that Pennsylvania and Campbell, there are a couple of counties. I'll start naming them, get them wrong, maybe Bedford. But a couple of the counties have already done this, and Lee County's done it. All right, Governor, what you going to do? Because now if you're going to say you're going to enforce the law, you need to enforce all the laws. You need to start cooperating and have those counties cooperate with ICE if you're going to claim that you've got the authority to restrict gun rights in Virginia. It's going to be a hard road for Governor Northam. We'll have to see what he does.
So when Sheriff Parsons says Lee County
He's a
will
great
be,
guy.
Yeah, when he says Lee County will be a sanctuary county for gun owners. So if there's a federal or state law passed restricting a gun ownership in some way, he is saying that he will defy that.
That's what it sounds like, and it sounds like what he's saying is, we will not cooperate with any attempts to seize guns from the citizens of Lee County.
What if the governor then takes their money away, right? Because there's certain, state fundings that goes to every counties for school and stuff. What if he says, okay, well, the hell with you. We're going to cut your funding off. Can he do that?
He cannot do that under the Constitution. There may be other money. He can't take the school money away. But he might be able to take away some other monies, not give him any grants or something along those lines.
Right.
But then the question becomes, all right, what about the counties that aren't cooperating with ICE? Why aren't you doing something there?
Right.
If you're going to take away money, take that money away.
Right.
And, look, there's a big divide, and Governor Northam has got to figure out whether he's the Governor Northam that we all knew who was fairly moderate, or whether he is merely a puppet of the far left. Stay tuned. We'll find out in January.
Well, Congressman, based on everything I've seen, he's a puppet of the far left. I mean, there's not a single thing he's done that's been moderate. And look, when he was in the state Senate, he prided himself on he used to be a Republican, and then he was a moderate, and he would work across the aisle, and that was his style. But now, I haven't seen anything that Governor Northam has done that would lead me to believe that he's anything else except a complete tool of the far left. He's not rejected anything they've asked him to do. He's 100% on board with everything, including killing babies when they're out of the birth canal or whatever else he's doing. So I just don't see it. I have no confidence in him, and I just can't wait till he's out of there. I'm not sure who's going to end up governor in 2021, but I used to be a fan of his, and I'm sure you were also. I mean, he was, I thought he was a good, level-headed guy. But now I'm just done with him, and I don't even believe anything he says. It's sad when you have somebody that you don't even believe. He gets on, says something, I don't believe anything he says. Sorry. I mean, that's just me. All right, we're almost out of time. Final thing here, Congressman, are we going to get a vote on USMCA in 2019, yes or no?
I think yes.
When?
I don't know the answer to that. Probably on December 20th, after they've done the impeachment. They have time to look at something besides impeachment all day.
After impeachment, they'll have a vote on USMCA. Some people said that Pelosi's going to have the vote on the same day, so that she gives Democrats the cover to vote for something they don't want to vote for and something they do want to vote for. Have you heard that rumor?
I have heard that rumor. I think it would be difficult to do. I believe there will be some procedural machinations that will slow that process down.
Really?
I mean, look, why would we as Republicans sit by and just let it happen easy peasy? I think it's our duty to the republic and to the country to sticks in the spokes of the Democrat process, and I'm not talking Democratic process, I'm talking about the party politics of Nancy Pelosi, and slow down that impeachment vote on the day they decide to bring it up. Why wouldn't we?
Interesting. So yesterday I had Vice President Mike Pence on my show, and I asked him twice, I assume the Democrats have the votes for impeachment. And he said, no, they don't. He said that is not a foregone conclusion. He said right now they don't have the votes. And then we went back to it a second time, and I'm like, well, the head count that we do, I mean, I don't see how he's not going to get impeached on 2, maybe 1, but he'll definitely be impeached. And again, the vice president said, John, that is not a foregone conclusion. There's a lot that can happen between now and then. And he said, at the end of the day, I'm not convinced that they're going to have the votes. Do you share that view?
I don't. I think they've got the votes. I think they have them lined up. Nancy Pelosi is a good vote counter. Mm-hmm. And I think she had those votes lined up before she did the resolution. Maybe not before they started the super secret clubhouse investigation in the basement,
the Star Chamber.
But in the Star Chamber. But before she went to the floor with a resolution, which still made it super secret and no due process. But I think she had the votes before she went to the floor with that resolution.
Congressman Morgan Griffith, we're out of time. As always, we love having you on, and we appreciate your unabashed candor, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.